You're listening to Superpowers of the Soul on the Superpower Up Podcast, the show that elevates superpowers to the divine.
Okay, everyone, this is Jennifer Urezzio, and I'm a superpower expert and founder of Soul Language, and this is Superpowers of the Soul. And today I'm with Devorah Spilman, and we are talking about the soul and storytelling. Welcome!
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
I'm so excited that you are here with us. And, I always like to start these questions with everyone getting to know you from the soul out. And so one of my favorite questions is to understand what people think their superpower of their soul for themselves is. So what would you consider the superpower of your soul for yourself?
So, it's funny because I think the superpower of my soul is connected to what I do in the world, but in different orders, which is the whole world of story and imagination, and being able to see the stories in others, see that my story, say it, share it, tap into it, like the expression of my soul, and feeling like I'm a vessel for that kind of higher God consciousness, like the light, to come through, get clothed in story, and go out in the world.
Beautiful. So with that in mind, we often talk about sacred purpose, which we're profoundly here to experience and then offer that experience to others. What would you consider your sacred purpose then?
So what the simplest way I've said it all my life, that probably is true for a lot of people, is to bring God's light out into the world. And then how it moves into how I do that, because maybe a lot of people, I hope, do that. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of my sacred purpose is to help people, and it started with children, to help them access this other realm, whether you call it prayer or spirit or God or imagination, but getting out of the ordinary and experiencing that wondrous, extraordinary realm that mostly our culture doesn't value and doesn't teach. And so I always feel like I infiltrate, right? I go into the public schools and tell these stories that take the children into these mystical realms and model for them a whole other way of experiencing, being, knowing. And then in the stories, what I would do, for many years, I created and told original stories, first in the public schools and then in Jewish schools. And I always modeled that the children who did this deeper work and had these expanded experiences created success in their life. The value of these kind of alternate experiences is very, very powerful. And I'm kind of I wrote my undergraduate thesis on the importance of imagination in learning. And so I have a real passion for accessing imagination. And in the last few years, I've even coined the term spiritual imagination. The realm, I call it the realm of spiritual imagination. And I call it that because it gives weight to imagination and connects it to higher purpose. And it also gives people permission to trust that realm, this other way of knowing. And I think even without knowing it, my first stories I told for years were about the imaginary world of Zambadoodle. And when I went back and looked at it, it was all about they go through a cave and they come out in another world. And it really was kind of a metaphor for this transcendent way of knowing and being. I just put it in a story, if you see what I mean.
I see what you mean, and I love it. So what is a common theme that your soul has shared with you over time?
I think that the world of imagination and story is the food for which we are starving. Our souls are starved. And they're not starved for food, physical food. They're starved for this higher imaginal realm. And so all my life, I have known that somehow. And I have been able to give people of any age access to that realm. And when you get access to that realm of the soul, of imagination, of spiritual imagination, that higher realm, it's like, I feel so much better. I feel joy. I feel creativity. I feel the flow. And that, you know how a lot of times when people go back, they see something they've always done and they didn't realize that was what they'd always done. And, you know, a lot of times I say we're all a little invisible to ourselves because we're so normal to ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I did that work on myself and I went back, it was like I was always taking children into this magical realm where they would go naturally if we let them, or if we didn't stop them, shall we say. And so then a number of years ago, I realized I sort of switched who I was helping to do that. And I switched over to helping women, especially women over 50, to actually regain access to that realm. Because a lot of us, we had it, and the world didn't let us keep it.
Wow. So before we take our break here, give out your website so everyone knows how to get in touch with you.
Right. So they just go to my name, DevorahSpilman.com. So I don't know if they have it printed, but it's DevorahSpilman.com. It's just my name.com. And probably the first thing to do is to get what I call get out of the goo. I have a whole teaching on how do you get out of that old negative voice that keeps you stuck. It's a new take on all creative endeavor and how you move forward, because I believe we have so much amazing creativity and imagination inside of us, and we just need access.
Beautiful. Okay, everyone, stay tuned. We're going to be talking to Devorah about the soul and storytelling.
Hello, everyone. This is Tonya Dawn Rekla, Executive Director of SuperPower Experts, and we want to thank each of you for making SuperPower Up the #1 podcast network for personal development and spiritual growth. Because people like you have the courage to say that mindfulness, healthy living, disrupting reality, the pursuit of consciousness, responsible entrepreneurship, and radical parenting matter, we now amass over 1 million downloads monthly in more than 90 countries. Our numbers keep growing because there are far more people willing to live divergently than mass media wants to acknowledge. For you, the change makers, the light bearers, the way showers, we say thank you. If you're ready to take the next step in your evolution, go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the Superpower quiz. And as Neva Lee Rekla, our youngest podcaster, likes to remind us, remember, we all have superpowers and we can change the world.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Jennifer Urezzio, and I'm a superpower expert and founder of Soul Language, and you're listening to Superpowers of the Soul. And today's topic is the soul and storytelling. So, Devorah, tell us why it's so important to connect with the soul as we move into this kind of really powerful tool of storytelling.
Well, here's the thing. There are a lot of storytelling can be many different things. And so in the world of not like entertainment performing storytellers, but really in the realm of influencers, people who really want to use their story to uplift, transform, inspire, is different than like when I still did that when I was a performing storyteller, but there's another aspect when you're using it in combination with being a teacher, an influencer, a speaker, like that. And so if you're telling a story and you want to connect with the person you're telling it to, and you're not connected in your own being, in your own soul, what really matters to you, you won't connect to that in the other person. And so what I find is when you do the work to kind of connect what I call your soul story, that might not be just one story, but when you go deep and you get those stories, they kind of tell themselves. And people will say to me two kinds of things when they talk about storytelling, like in their businesses or speaking or teaching, whatever it is. They'll say either my story is too intense, so I would be too vulnerable to tell it, like it's too terrible, or I don't have a terrible enough story, right? Like I don't have an I almost died story.
Yeah.
So neither of those are true. That neither one of those are a problem. Your story is your story. The question is, if you're telling it to an audience, you need to ask yourself, why are you telling it to them? Because people will say to me, no one wants to hear my sob story. And I say, you're right. They don't. If it's your sob story, go to your friend, your therapist, your coach, whoever. They want to hear a transformational story. So often I teach how to tell what I call a turning point story. Meaning, when is a moment that just stopped you in your tracks, turned everything around, and then you tell that, and then you really unpack that. Because what I want to know from your story is how it's also my story and how it can help me move my story forward, right? I'm not going to tell you my story of how everything was horrible and how it still is, right? Like that's not it.
So I understand that you take people through this like little mini process about connecting and, uncovering a story. Can you do that with us right now?
Yes, I can. And what we're going to do, rather than getting an actual story from your past, which you can use this process for, we're going to get a metaphor. And metaphor is one of the most important and powerful tools in all speaking and storytelling. And so getting one to play with is really fun. So that's what we'll do. All right. So everybody listening, just close your eyes.
Unless you're driving, then don't.
Okay, fine. You can listen to it later. So be somewhere where you can sit down quietly and close your eyes and just begin to notice your breath coming in and out. And really allow yourself to feel that shift to stillness. Feel a sense of breathing bigger than your physical self. And then allow your awareness to shift to that flow from above and feel your connection to God, Source, the universe, and feel that pure light from above coming down to the top of your head, filling your whole body, your whole being with light, love, healing, blessing, guidance, clarity, down through your feet into the earth, grounding you in the earth. And then breathe up that solid, rooted, comforting energy of the earth into the center of your being. And be aware of being in that state of connected flow. Now, this is the first step. This process, it's called the In-Story Way process. It has the acronym STATE, and the first step is stop and breathe. The T, the second step, is always think about it. So staying in that state of connected flow. This time, you can use the think about step for many things. And for today, this first try through for you, think about who you are, what you do in the world. What do you already know about yourself, your calling, your joy? You can think, what are you grateful for? What are you good at? What do you love to do? So let that be just gently in the front of your consciousness. And the next two steps go together always are ask and trust. And in order to access information from this other realm, the subconscious, the higher realm, it's important to trust the first thing you get. So what you're going to ask is, what is an image or a metaphor for who I am, what I do in the world, my gifts, an image or a metaphor that's just right for me in this moment, to show me something to see, to guide me, that's just right for who I am and what I do in the world. And the key here is to trust the first thing you get. So if you went through, no, not that, not that, not that, go back and say, yes, that. Even if right now you don't understand what it means, part of what this does is the quickness of it allows you to access this other way of knowing, and you get past your ego, your censor, your try harder editor mind. The last step is the E, is explain or interpret. So just trust. This is where trust, ask and trust always come in. What do you think this means? What does it seem to be about? How are you like this image? How is it like you? What does it seem to mean? And you can let it develop. The more detail you allow yourself to see in an image or a metaphor, the more you can gain from it. And just be kind of trusting, playful, creative. And I promise you get better at interpreting images the more you play with them. So just trust what you get. If it's something very beautiful that just is very uplifting to you, I always say breathe that in. receive it and trust it. If it's something completely amazing to you and you don't understand it, don't worry about that. You can keep asking and get more information from it. Okay, so trust what you get, take a deep breath, and bring yourself back. Just come on back into the moment. Look around, stretch a little, maybe write down what you got, and see where it leads you. And if there's time for fun, it would be fun if you want to share what you got, Jennifer.
Sure, I got a Bengal tiger.
So say always what I tell people when you get it, just describe it a little more in detail. What does it look like? How does it feel? Where is it? Say a little more about it.
I mean, I just saw it looks like a Bengal tiger, I mean, and then when I ask, how does that kind of apply to me? Rare and fierce.
Say that again.
Rare and fierce.
Where?
Rare, as in it's a rare,
Not many
of them left in the world, right? So it's very rare and very fierce. And I think that's something to put into my marketing. I like that. So kind of understanding that, I'm not like everyone else, and that, I do love and offer, deep courage and fierceness to the individuals that I work with. So I love that imagery of tigers. And it also explains why I've been dreaming about tigers lately.
This is the power of this work. It will give you access to very powerful, deep content. And you can trust it and use it. It takes a little work sometimes to understand its message. So you just this is what you do in the world. So you did a really good job of understanding this message. And people can reach out to you or me if they have more questions about what the heck does this mean, what they got, right? Because in the beginning, you don't necessarily know how to interpret what you get.
Yes, and if you keep asking the question, you'll get that meaning. I remember one of the first as I was starting, this transformational work, I had this dream where I was looking at my watch. And I knew that this was important, but I didn't understand why. And it was bothering me for weeks. And I was walking down a New York City street, and I was like, okay, what does this dream mean? I have a watch. I'm looking at the watch. I'm looking at it that it should change. I'm looking at, okay, it's time to change. And I was like, oh my God, how could I have not gotten that earlier, right? Right? So asking yourself more questions and being patient with yourself and being really loving. So before we wrap up with our last question today, let people know how to get in touch with you, how to gain more of your goodness.
So you have two things you can go to my website, which is devorahspilman.com. And there's a free class there that I think your people will really like, how to get out of the goo. If you have a burning question, though, about your image, you can go to soulstorysession.com. And that will lead you how to get, I always have a free soul story session available if someone is really stumped. Like, I try not to leave people hanging. I got a peanut butter sandwich on a tree flying with wings. It's like, right. So if you are really stumped by your image, you can find me at soulstorysession.com, and you can always find lots of things at my website, which is my name, Devorah Spilman.
I love it. So my last question is, if you were a magnet on whatever you call your higher powers refrigerator, God, Bob, what would that magnet say?
Trust the calling of your soul.
I love it. You know what? I should go back to and listen to all of my interviews and start creating these magnets, because they're amazing. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your storytelling abilities and helping us tap into that within our soul. And I thank you for the guidance and the support of now my new imagery as a tiger. So thank you so much.
Love that. You're so welcome. I love it.
If you like what you heard today, you can connect with me and all the other experts in the Superpower Net at superpowerexperts.com/the net. And don't forget not just to find your connection, but be your connection. Thanks a lot. And please, if you have any comments or you want to share your imagery, just post a little in the comment section. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you for my guest today.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the Superpower Quiz today.